fifth grade, and welcome back to another wonderful week of math learning. Aren't you so excited? Today we are going to focus on a skill known as powers of 10, and I love powers of 10 because you know my favorite number is 10. Today is an introduction to powers of 10, and so we're going to look at some key vocabulary that you're going to need to understand before we jump into multiplying and dividing by powers of 10. So in your folder or in your Google Classroom assignments for today, you have a powers of 10 notes page, and we're going to do this top section right now, vocabulary, word define, example. So whenever I ask you to work on vocabulary in math, we're going to always do word, definition, and example. And so this is what your paper looks like. I'm going to get a hard copy. Here's the hard copy. And at home, you also should have a math binder. Now, I don't have mine labeled on the front yet, and you may not either, and that's okay. Whenever we come back to school, we'll make sure that we stick a piece of paper in your math binder that says math binder, and then on the inside, you probably have 4 tabs, but I have changed things up, of course, and so you're actually just going to use 3 tabs right now, so we might need to change the names of some of those tabs. So here are the name of the tabs that I have. Notes and vocab is going to be 1 tab in the front. Problem strings is the 2nd tab, and then resources is going to be our 3rd tab. There you go. And so whenever we get done with this page, you are going to stick it in your notes and vocab section. Okay, but you're going to be filling that out today. That's going to be your lesson and your assignment for today. So let's get started with key vocabulary. Now, I've already done a lot of work, so this video won't be too long, but word definition example. So we have 3 words that are going to be key words for you to understand this week's goals. So we have base, exponent, and power of 10. Now you also have another packet that has lesson 5 in the front, okay, and that gives you written definitions and examples of base, exponent, and power of 10 in case you need to see that more specifically. Okay, so what is a base? A base is a number that is multiplied by itself a certain number of times. And so that definition may be confusing. So in math, it's always important to have examples. So this is what a base looks like, 10 to the 3rd power, and 10 is the base. And the 3 up here is what we call an exponent. Okay, and we're going to learn what that is in just a minute. But that 10 is the base. Okay. And 10 to the 3rd power actually means 10 times 10 times 10. So a number that is multiplied by itself a certain number of times. So that 10 is being multiplied by itself a certain number of times. Guess how many, guess what the number is that tells us how many times it's multiplied by itself? You guessed it. It's the exponent, and it's that little tiny 3 up in the air. Okay, so an exponent is a number that tells how many times a given number is used as a factor. Factor is a very important word here. Let me grab my highlighter. Factor is things that you multiply, okay? Factor. 10 is a factor here, 10 is a factor here, and 10 is a factor here. 10 is a factor 3 times. Now, this is not 3 times 10. That's not what this means. This means that you multiply 10 by itself 3 times, okay? So 10 to the 3rd power, the 3 is the exponent, and remember 10 is the base, okay? And finally, last but not least, we have power of 10. So a power of 10 is a value So it's an amount, okay? A value represented by multiplying 10 by itself a certain number of times. A certain number of times is the exponent and 10 is the base. So what are some examples of these values that we can write? What do you think is the value of 10 to the third power? If you multiply 10 times 10, we get 100. And then what is 10 groups of 100? 1,000. So 1,000 is a power of 10. There are lots of powers of 10. In fact, there's an infinite amount of powers of 10 because numbers never end. We can always get a larger place value. So let's do some other examples of some powers of 10. Okay, so we could also have 10 to the fourth power. The 4 is the exponent, but the 10 is still the base. Can you guess how much 10 to the fourth power would be? We would have to multiply 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Well, we know 10 to the third power is 1,000, so what's 10 groups of 1,000? You guessed it, 10,000. All right, so these are examples of power of 10, and exponent is the little tiny number in the air up to the right. Then the base is that larger number, okay? Or when I say larger number, I mean like physical size, okay? The base and the exponent. And exponents, you can have a base of anything, but in 5th grade we just talk about powers of 10. We don't talk about powers of 2 or powers of 3 or anything like that. Our base is always going to be 10 when we're talking about this in 5th grade, okay? So you're going to fill this out in your notes for powers of 10 on that page, and you can either do it on the computer or you can do it. Actually, you need to do it on paper and pencil so that you can stick it in your math binder and bring it back to school when we come back to school, okay? Send me a picture of your work. If you'd rather type it and print it at home, you're allowed to do that too. All right, bye guys.